Yo, what's up, people? It's the solarkidd, and I'm back on another Other Side of the Sun podcast. And I'd like to introduce my guests today. I have the lovely Sherry Cannell and Q7 from IYX Afrika. Respect.
Straight up.
How you guys doing?
I'm fine. Yourself, my man.
Aye, lekker, man. Lekker. I see you are not wearing. I see you're not wearing any face masks. How's the lockdown going there?
As long as you're in your own house, you're locked down.
Well, for me, I mean, for us, we've been traveling throughout COVID-19 lockdown. Really stopped us, our progression. Yeah.
Yeah, we never had COVID lockdown practically. Not me and Shari. We've been everywhere.
What do you guys
from level 5 till now?
What have you guys been doing?
So what we were doing is level 4. It was around May, June last year, 2020. We attended a funeral of a great
old lady.
Right, Khoi. And yeah, she was an amazing woman. So we were in the Northern Cape in Uppington, and we moved around the Northern Cape, Springbok, Olifantshoek, and we ended off our journey in the Eastern Cape in Grahamstown, where we assisted in building a skate park for a Xhosa community over there.
Okay, so let's put everything in context. So I'll hand it over. You guys can go one at a time, and then just tell us a little bit about who you are and what the project is, so that we can obviously provide more context to what we speaking about.
Okay, right. So IYX Afrika. I'm Q7, founder, as well as Shari Cannell, and we run this organization called IYX Afrika. IYX Afrika is a remote assistance organization where we extend our help and our time to the service of Indigenous people, especially their youth. We travel the entire country. We do medicinal plants, healing, treatments, and workshops. We do natural organic farming, seeds, seed banks, workshops, the entire thing. It's not just us talking, it's actually a physical thing. That's why we travel so much. We are at this moment building the radio station, which links to the IYX. It's also a form of remote assistance. And we're just hoping that this entire project is seen over the next year and a half, 2 years by other youth and join in, because it's actually a female organization. I'm very soon going to be off from it. As Shari knows, I've just helped them build it and organize for them to start rolling on and engage in South Africa's youth. So that's more or less what we do.
Yeah. Shari?
Yes, there's a few other projects that we also assist in, which is environmental based, activism. So from about January this year, we have been doing the Save the Okavango Delta campaign in association with Frack Free Namibia, which is an organization situated in Namibia with a bunch of amazing environmentalists and that type of thing, activists, as we fight Recon Africa, which is a Canadian oil and gas company that is currently, they were prospectively drilling for oil and gas. And today we actually got information that they found, the oil and gas reserves. So now it's the next step to that fight. Yes, and then with the IYX Afrika radio station, it is a youth-based, female-led radio station. And a lot of the women have very unique perspectives. I think about my Indigenous. So it would be more from an Indigenous and urban Indigenous perspective, but we are bringing in the more, what would I say, rural or traditional, Indigenous perspectives. What I will be doing on the road as well is I would be documenting, I'll be interviewing people from the local villages as we move into Namibia. So it would be various perspectives, and yeah, it's going to be amazing.
So can you just tell me a little bit about who you are and your background, Shari, and then Q as well?
Sure. So I studied environmental science, majoring in botany and zoology. So I love the earth, I love nature, I love natural interactions and that type of thing. I did my honors in zoology. I then went on to take a gap year or two in Thailand and traveled around. So I love to travel. I love the environment, and I also love, because I am Indigenous and I have taken, a journey into my roots. Indigenous spaces and Indigenous communities are very important to me. So I would call myself an Indigenous environmental activist.
Oh, that's a nice way to put it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm Craig Beckett, known as Q7, born in Johannesburg, Riverlea, and grew up in Rubbux, yeah, man. Yeah, D section, you know. So I come from a upbringing of pure violence, and luckily in my house I had a grandmother and a grandfather as bushman. So I had that bush medicine in the kitchen talks, that late nights with the grandfather outside by the umbola talks. So that guided me through all this. I mean, hip hop became the embodiment of this. And in return, my evolution in that became indigenous hip hop, where I stripped myself from other forms of music because of understanding who I am. Later on in life, well, since a kid, I had a camera in my hand. I loved that I could capture a moment and explain it someday. So I started taking photos, and photos started taking me with my hip hop around the country, you know, going to shows, not to perform, but rather to look at the psychology of a colored person trying to tell his story, a white person trying to tell his story. I mean, I come from the ghetto. I didn't like the way they were telling the story. And I started just looking for these stories, recording nursery rhymes, recording, you know, natural beats, just traveling the entire Southern Africa. Later on, I ended up in Durban, where as a kid I used to visit. Decided, you know, I'm tired of this hip hop thing. I've researched it, I looked at it. Plus, I got hurt. I've got trigeminal face nerve damage. Just before I started touring about 8 years ago, I got hurt. So in that, me getting hurt, me finding, refining my skills as a cameraman, me judging pain through medicinal medicine, I found to go back to my roots as a bushman. Um, Many people knew me in Riverlea growing up as a colored family. Well, we were not. We were a half Nama, half Bushman family. And I started taking my work as an indigenous humanitarian very seriously. Going and living with the tribes, going learning better medicine, tackling autism, cancer, leukemias, diseases that I knew would not be read well in the bush. For example, autism in the bush is called defits, and that is it. So me translating that medicine back to them as what we would call it is Western side gave more knowledge into what plants to be used and how much of these plants. So me journeying became a journey not of self, but a journey of like an onion, peeling myself off back to the indigenous child that chilled in the kitchen with his grandmother. And now I'm a San youth leader, 41 years old, medicine man, huntsman, hip hop activist, creating something called Indigi hip hop and the story of it, not actually a product, but a story of it, how the indigenous world that I met, I tried teaching hip hop and what came out of that, you know, Khoi, Chwansi, Nama, how rap there started challenging me, understanding how to drop a 16 bar in English or Afrikaans. It was nothing compared to Younger Boy drop a 4 bar, and that was clicks. So it took me out of that realm of hip hop immediately. I wanted to explore this thing and not be the one to give birth to it, but share it to the rest of South Africa and the rest of the world.
Mm.
Met Shari, and yeah, she had that mindset, that clarity, that shine, that light, good enough to work with and help people. When you say you want to help people, you need to do it unconditionally. That's what she did, and that's what I'm doing.
Wow, bro, that's deep, man. I mean, I got so many questions.
Yeah, it blows it.
Yeah, no. I mean, we obviously, come from similar place, same age, you know what I'm saying, similar,
Word.
same background. So, but I want to ask, so I mean, Shari also referred to herself as Indigenous. You have now, like, obviously taken on the mantle of San youth leader. My question is, what's the difference between a colored person and a bushman? I mean, what do you guys feel? Because I'll tell you my perspective after, but I want to hear what I mean. Wow, you guys.
Well, there's a big difference. There's a huge difference. If you look at Bushman people really didn't come from the background. I mean, like, for example, where me and you come from. You look at Eldorado Park, you look at Western, Reveille, you look at Innerdale. Where did these people come from first, before they went there? These people came from the Northern Cape and the higher Western Cape.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Now,
because with Sherry, our family comes from Uppington and
exactly,
PE and those.
which makes your San background people, where you can trace your lineage directly into a San family group or directly into a Nama family group. That's where your family comes. Now, the rest of the other people don't come from these areas. That's where you find the differences between neighborhoods in Johannesburg and neighborhoods in Cape Town.
Mm.
It's not just the way we talk or dialect, it's our indigenous background that created that. That is Khoi people. They have that dialect from Eastern Cape right down. It's remember when we grew up, we had that story of Bynars, Karpenars, Josters, Durbanite. Now, to truly understand what is a Bynar and a Joster, that's a San person. Even a person from the Northern Cape qualifies as a Joster.
Mm.
Half of Uppington lives in Joburg, not the rest of South Africa. Now, those are Bushman people. They come from not a far generation that cannot be traced. Whereas the other people, as the colored people, you have a mixture now. Now you have descendants of slaves. That is a mixed group of people that came from Indonesia, Zanzibar, you name it. You know, the Dutch East India Company did
Like,
their thing. You understand? The castle in Cape Town is evident to that. But then they were people from the east side of our country, Southern Africa. These Khoi people, or which supposed to be actually, from my point of view, we called Hottentot people because they were classified that by themselves. No one gave them that name. And these people today are not recognized, same as the Southern African native family groups, tribes. So you have that difference of these group of people. But within the colored people, you also have the people who's like had mixed marriages or mixed births from other tribes. Colored people had tribes, white birds, Indian birds, black birds, all these things. And then you have this one thing that we from Joburg know is a sense of being Basutu. That we all can't deny. The Basutu families has been always around us. The slang, everything since we grown up, their way of talking, walking, and they too have also a colored background and a San background. So it was closeness to who was in your community, in your bloodlines. You understand? So there you can see the differences. The church goes, everything, the psychology, the drinking, the behavioral science between us, it's a big gap between them because of us being from the northern side, Central Africa, Central Southern Africa, and up. That's all you could see from the difference from these two people.
Okay. What's your take on it, Chazs?
well, my take on it, for me, it's that the colonizer, or in the apartheid era, they put this identity on us, which is colored.
So-called.
And over the years, I mean, yeah, you know, so-called colored. So for me, over the years, I mean, we've lost a lot of our roots and where we come from, like you were saying, you know, the Northern Cape or the Uppington, you know, the rituals and the things that we used to do. I mean, it's still evident in our households, like how we take care of our households, how we clean our households. You'll go to any colored family and they'll look after the household the same that you do, you know. For example, like Q knows, when we were in Uppington, like I would be up and down helping out, and no one else would understand why I'm doing this, but it's because that's just how I was grown up. So there are certain, you know, aspects of behaviors and that type of thing that have been carried down. But from what I've seen around me, like people have just lost their roots and who they are and their heritage. And you know, driving, for example, out 5 minutes down the road to Westbury, Nuclear, you know, just into the Kasi, I see people that are lost, and I see people that don't truly, you know themselves, and they then find themselves in drinking, in gangs, that type of thing. And for me, I think that that's what they think a colored is, which is gangsterism, drinking, alcohol, drugs. You know what I mean? So I feel like this is my perspective, that it's a stereotype. It's what's been given to us by the colonizer. It's a loss of identity and a lack of knowing self. So that for me is what this colored term is.
Well, I was gonna say, do you know that you obviously realize that that was by design? You know,
Yes.
they designed it that way.
Exactly.
They put you in an area. They brought in the drugs. They brought in all these things. They make you feel like you're better than the black man, because colored people, even in our poverty or in our marginalized communities, we still had maids growing up. So they make
Yes.
you feel that you're better than
Mm.
your brothers and your sisters. They make you do this. They make you see that. And then, like, I mean, for me, my first point of discovery was through poetry. So, like Steve Biko's book, I Write What I Like, that was like the biggest eye-opening, you know, message that I could receive, because it made me start questioning. And like from that moment on, I aligned myself with Pan-Africanist views. So started thinking of myself as an African person. And you can understand how like contentious that was in our households, where we were so brainwashed that our grandparents, our parents, if I come to them and I say I'm African, they'll be like, "What? No,
Yeah.
you're not the African. Are you mad? You know?" And I'm like, "Are you serious?" Even the fact like of how we don't, or we didn't look past our borders, you know, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, you know, Angola, all these places which are on our doorstep, and yet we only see, you know, Reveille or Bosmont or Westbury or whatever and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But in terms of like the question I was saying, like colored and bushman, for me, in terms of like my research, I gravitate towards the understanding and the you know the how can I say, the what you find from researching your roots and your background. It gives you a sense of purpose and it gives you a sense of being. But then at the same time, if you actually look, I mean, I did a DNA test, right? And according to my DNA, it's like 1/3 African mixed, obviously, you know, a large percentage of indigenous, you know, bushman, but then also African black tribes, you know what I'm saying, from all over Africa and West Africa, but then also European and Southeast Asian. So the mix is like almost 1/3 of each. So I almost not struggle, but I find it hard to just identify with one perspective and rather like to look at it from a whole. But I do understand why and the need to find identity and hope through your, you know, through your ancestry. So
Yeah.
I mean that makes sense. I mean, like, what's your thoughts on that, Q?
Well, I come from a matriarch family, and my grandmother's son had this thing where she knew she's going to church, for example, but she would tell us also that, you know, That's because my friends do that. We Bushmen, we live in Africa, and we live in this place. We do this thing, But in the end of the day, this is what makes you Bushmen, and she used to tell us. From your grandfather's side, this is how the story goes. From my side, this is how the story goes, and the branches goes well within Botswana and Namibia into an area and a place. Before anybody called it that, we called it that. Bushman land. We had no name, we had no God, we had no sense of money. We come from a place where we lived hand in hand with nature. Later on, we had to move. The Germans came, war came, we had to run. Our families got caught. Half of us, practically, literally half, came to South Africa, where we met the other family groups of the San and the Kuna. Later on, we grew up, we were educated, we went to churches, we were domesticated. We became nurses, school teachers. Now that had to be dispatched throughout the country. We took Johannesburg because we knew Newplay, all these places were spoken about, and this is where our people will be. Now, if you listen to what I've said, that's tracing directly from the bush to where I sit right now, without a blood test. Now, there I can not claim indigenous, I'm born there because my indigenous story has been kept in me. But then my father, who's my father's got Indonesian blood. There's another bloodline now in me. So being maternal raised from a San family, I wear these in respect of not being indigenous, but following my grandmother. This is her wishes I'm living. My entire life is her wishes. So my indigenous lifestyle everybody sees, minus the hip hop, the photography and all that. No, this is my life. The other things is an add-on.
Okay.
I'm a son child fulfilling his son grandmother's rites of passage, which she could know. Now these are things we grew up knowing. Shari just experienced it now in my granny Khoi. And it must have been a shock to her that we treat women differently. I wasn't treated anything the way she was because she's a woman. And in that house, woman rule. It's like that. And in her life, everything Shari experienced there, she gave her woman power. We nothing. Now, coming from that background and that and staying within that community, visiting these people, you start learning further deeper than you've reached and actually trying to figure out the DNA side of it, because it's actually the physical side of it that determines that. Who you think you are, where you see you come from. You know Arlington, I know Arlington, and it's not strange to us. We see it in everywhere we go. That's the scary part, that yet no one knows who we are.
Okay.
Some don't like the Germans call us Bushmen, so they said the Germans did that. No, they did not. It is those groups, family groups in the bush that didn't want to be mentally colonized. And today they have to be. There's no other way. That's the sad part.
Mhm.
So being Bushman, you can actually pick up the sense of who it is by just walking down your street in any city. You feel displaced if you're not in the place where you're from.
How do you feel about the fact that Bushmen or indigenous people around the world, well, not just Bushman people, actually, I'd say indigenous people around the world, how they've been like pushed aside, marginalized, and almost pretty much forgotten in today's world? Like, I mean, how do you guys? Because I mean,
And you can actually say, you can say genocide. It's an
yeah,
openly used
no,
word.
it is genocide.
It's genocide. If you look at the entire globe as we speak, like you say, every indigenous person right now has got an environmental problem. Who brought it together? From logging to oil, to gas, to gold, diamond, to copper. Who brought that? Those people knew it was there for millennia. They never touched it. We have a problem where we as indigenous people, I sometimes think it's because we got the biggest intellectual property claim in the world. And the rest of the world can't pay a debt like that. But they can blindside the people like that. No, if you look at every part of the world, it looks like it's a game because no one's helping them. Every community, no matter who you are, if you are indigenous, you got my problems. I got your problems. We share. It's like we know each other.
Mm.
But the biggest part of the problem we share. How come funders are making so much money, but it's not coming to us with our pain? How come they get PhDs and masters with our pain? And that PhD doesn't come out of that school. It belongs to the property of the university. That document could help me. That thesis could help me. Why can't it be released?
Mm.
You know, these are the problems that we face as indigenous people. We were kind enough to show the world how to save it.
You know, like how, like with say Native American people, you know how the culture is like misappropriated. Does that happen with bushman people? And how do you feel about that as well?
My brother, it's actually worse than that. How would you like if you Google right now Bushman people, all you're gonna find us doing is dancing? Like goddamn, is that all we do? There's certain medicine in the world that cannot be found but in the Kalahari. We cure things that this world will never believe. Find out about that. We have a language other than our clicks. We talk through beating. There's a system of behavior we have that this world don't know. We eat with lions. We sleep with the lion down the road, an elephant. It doesn't chase us, it chases the tourists. How does that behavior, that holistic psychology, how did we create that? How come the world don't have that? Yet we are one of the most researched human beings on earth, but you know, you don't find us out there. You don't. You rather find what type of blood type we are. You find how our blood and genes were colonized in Africa, and Shari will be covering that on her radio station, the colonization of African DNA. It is pathetic that these things exist, but they do.
Well, they know the fact that our DNA is the oldest in the world. You know that.
Yeah, but then you find a university in America patterning the blood types of indigenous people in Africa. Then you have that. Then you have pharmaceutical companies gaining on patterns like that.
Mm.
Now, you rather hear these things out in the world that needs to have research funded than actually hearing what's wrong with the bushman or the indigenous person, that aboriginal soul, that person, the physical man. How about finding about how he's doing? Not how do you hunt, not how do you dance, or what do you do with it? No, you tell me your story. So in a few days, I'm in Namibia to do exactly that. Because we don't just hunt and dance. We have serious discussions in the bush. Our future, our children's future. We want to be mapped. We want to understand the width and the breadth of Namibia and Botswana, South Africa. Where does Bushman education, this indigenous knowledge systems that the whole world is studying, why are we not involved in them?
Mm.
Yet we are the oldest. We don't eat food. We lived so much years. They eat vegetables. They can't live long. But yet they don't pay attention to us that forage. Same as in South America, same as in Mongolia, same as in Australia. There's a problem. Sometimes, you know, you find somebody that wants to be cured, and then you find somebody that wants to be treated.
Mm.
And these are people who feels they want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. Yeah. We are kept there, that you would not know who we are. We're invisible.
I hear that, bro. I'm gonna ask you guys a bit of a double barrel question. So obviously you guys grew up in, you know, I'd say obviously Westernized society, and we've all been kind of indoctrinated with this. We grew up with technology, TVs, you know, whatever, stuff like that. Why do you think that people resist the natural ways of life? When, if you think about it, like our ancestors in any part of the world, whether it be Native Americans, Aboriginals, whatever, they all lived in harmony with nature. You know what I mean? and all of them pay homage to the spirit gods, whether it be the water, the sky, the air, whatever. And yet people nowadays, and for the longest time, you know what I mean, since the advent of technology, we kind of resisting that, you know, the natural life in exchange for a phone and this and a whatever. And you know, why do you think people are like that? Why can't we
Is
see?
it resisting?
Eh?
Are you sure it's resisting? Are you sure we're resisting?
I think a lot of people, how many people do you know that would want to give up their TV and their nice clothes and their phone and whatever and go live in the bush? And
Free will, I think free will is at play here, you know.
Addictions as
As
well, can I just say? Sorry.
yeah, addictions, you can say addiction, but free will. Free will, for example, look at the Bible. It takes your free will away. It gives it to a God figure. You cannot do nothing unless it is in that line. Now, if you look at indigenous backgrounds, this life where we say people are just cutting off, they're not. The more the evolution of the world is growing, the more what we call westernization, which is not westernization, which is called money, grows. And the opportunity for money becomes an encroaching thing around these old beliefs that is of no, how can I say, captured world. They are free. They think free, they live free, they express free in every sense. Now, when you look at that, there's a big change that we're not seeing there. And that change comes into one thing, that free will is being taken away from people. It's an ad up on a TV that makes that go by that. Remember the Immortal Technique mixtape where he cuts that of Wesley Snipes in a movie. We don't have poppy fields in Harlem. Uzis is not made in Harlem. It's the same as by us. These boys and girls, my brother's a drug addict full blown. It ain't him. I swear to God, it ain't him. It ain't him. He's innocent. I swear to God, it ain't him. But he's on drugs. Yeah. I can tell you who it is. I can tell you the pharmaceutical companies involved in this. I can tell you the members of parliament that's supposed to do their job, but they did not. The port authorities that are supposed to do their job, but they did not. I can go on, and the list goes so big, it is called the cartel of government. I blame them. Yeah, it ain't us. We would love to live like that, brother. We would love to live like that. If you look at an animal, ain't that dope that that animal just strides through nature and that's what he wants? We were once like that. And then came this thing where we have to obey. No free will. Now as indigenous
also
people, they got us. In hip hop, look at it in hip hop. What happened now to hip hop? Is there free will in hip hop now? An ad governs that. Royalties governs that. Selling the best book at 50 governs that.
I mean, everybody wants to maintain that lifestyle. Once you get a little piece of the pie and you got a nice house and a car.
Well,
I mean, even who was it? Kendrick Lamar was saying, is like, ain't no 30-year-old motherfuckers up in the club screaming and jumping. Once you hit that age, you lacquer, you nice, you don't resisting and fighting the power. And that line alone made me wake up, because I was a heavy, like, you know, social activist and Pan-Africanist. And then I hit like a plateau where I was like just comfortable. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is not life. This is not me. What's your take on it, Chazs?
My take on it is, wow, yeah, the Western system has just made us completely dependent. I mean, we're dependent on the grid, on the government for electricity, for water, for food, you know. But why? Why do we need to? Why can't we go back to the beginning, or the indigenous knowledge that you have a piece of land and you can build, you can grow whatever it is that you want. You don't have to pay for water. Water is not, it's abundant. It's abundant, and it's been given to us by the creator. I mean, it's crazy that we can't seem to see that. I mean, a big part of what we are doing here in IYX Afrika is We are trying to teach people, youth communities about their inherent power and about self-determination. Self-determination
That's the
is
thing.
what it's all about. Self-determination. It's about realizing your power and being like, I don't have to work for, yes, I can always upskill myself. I can look into things that I'm interested in. I can research. I can, constantly learn and educate myself. But I don't have to work for a freaking company that gives me, cents at the end of the month, that I'm putting myself through, stressful situations every day to do this. So I think that, yeah, it's just the system that has been built, that this is how, like, one way of success, one way of being successful and of viewing life. And people have just given into that. And people, like you were saying, there's no free will, there's no free thinking or open thinking or questioning, like you're saying, you need to question. And I don't think that people have been taught how to question, how to critically think, and to like, take a step back and observe, and realize the inherent power. And for me, that's how I see it.
So how do we, I mean, like, if it wasn't for technology, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Q is in Durban, you in Joburg, I'm in London, and we are sitting having a conversation live. So how do we actually use technology? Because I mean, I've read books where, like, they've said, even 20, 30 years ago, we already had the technology to basically automate so many functions that people would be able to do whatever they love, and all the things. And yet we're not using that technology. It's rather being like corporatized and like being made into something where someone else can make lots of money. So how do we, like, I mean, obviously you guys are doing good work campaigning, for Indigenous activism and, like, obviously uplifting the community and, bringing people back to the knowledge of that. But how do we marry the two together, technology and, this Indigenous information and knowledge?
There's only one way to start that, brother. Back in the day, I always go home because us three is from schools. We are scattered right now. And back in the day, our experience of primary school would have been different. You know that. If we had more knowledge in primary schools that the freedom of primary schools has today, we would raise leaders, we would raise environmentalists, we would raise children that understands technology. There is where our problem is. We have unequipped teachers and unequipped schools. You want to teach a child to go get a job, but not give him an alternative on the side. Then you're not educating that child. You're setting him ready for a
Yeah, well,
trap that works on money.
they're training
Yes,
you to obey, to listen, to go, to do your 9 to 5, to
exactly.
get your
Or be
pay.
obedient 100% from teacher to principal to the cleaner till you go home. The what you call them, but the boom gate guys, I forget their names always. Scholar patrol, the scholar patrol. I used to be that kid that questioned all that. Was once expelled at school because I took a nude art book at art school in Rivoli, primary school, Rivoli primary. Tomorrow come to school with an art project, something you would like to draw. I brought a book showing you figurines, not nude, not porn. I got a hiding of my life that day. I got
But
a
if you think
hiding,
about,
and it was one of the reasons I left school at standard 4.
I mean, even the stuff we were learning in primary school, bro. Me and you went through the same
It's
schooling
pathetic.
system. What did you
Sarki
What did you learn
and
in
Sarki. I didn't need Sarki. I didn't need to read that book.
What did you learn in history, bro? Did you learn about the Khoi, the San? Did you learn about, or did you learn about the Great Trek and the Great
My man, you know that table where they turn it around and you face the other way in class and you're not allowed to face the board. I voluntarily took that table every time in history because I come out of a bushman class and here this teacher says, in this book, the bushman, and I'm like, excuse me, hold up, can I go get my grandma? She'll tell you the story. And he said, no, like, then I'm not listening to your book. It's a book.
the great Jan van Riebeck, who came there and founded this amazing place and
Yep.
taught all these natives how to Where,
You know, it's terrible. And I mean, I just want to
And
go
you know where I flipped is when I read Shades. Have you all read Shades? Shades, say 2000, 2005, the matriculants had to write on it called Shades for English.
what's
Okay.
that?
When I saw that book, 2005, you must check it out. It's about the Xhosa community. And it starts off by how they are heathens with blankets. And these matriculants 2005 had to write about this thing. You know, education every 5 to 10 years becomes insulting.
So we have
And
our
we
own
spoon
people
feeding.
teaching us, our own people teaching us.
Yes, yes. That's why I say schools. How do we attack the schools? How do we fix that up? Because we have to hustle, we have to work, we have to go do these things. These children are they are free time. Who teaches them? That's why homeschooling is becoming popular. We should have a soccer field. Osman Owen uses that soccer field. Let's go take everybody's children there. Everybody's a teacher.
But then, you know, let me just say, like, okay, we're doing homeschooling, but we're doing homeschooling according to a system. Again, a system, because why? You can't matriculate if it's not recognized. So again, it's not even, you know, it's not even proper, you know, information, or it's still limited information that's being given.
You have to still adhere to a curriculum, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, like, what I was trying to say is with this COVID thing, you know, sure, the free will has been taken away. I mean, I saw a video the other day about how you need this passport to be to get access into different like events and going in, you know, to certain shops, or, you know, why are they taking our freedom away? And that's the thing, it's just getting more and more and more.
I think the most important thing to remember, and I was speaking to my friend yesterday, is that with all these controls and things coming into place, the thing that we need to remember is that nobody can take your mind. And something I've been telling my daughter is that, like, always remember, no matter what's going on in the world, as long as in here and in here you are at peace, they can't, you know what I mean? You will be fine.
They can't touch you,
yeah, you will be fine. So just quickly, how like what are the plans for IYX and moving forward? Like how can people help out and also like forward the movement?
Q.
Well,
Okay.
the next few months we are going into taking a grassroots level organization into the heights, like the OAK was explaining, Shari. Everybody got this idea, grassroots. That's your limitation. That's how you limit your help. So we've taken it beyond that. We've gone from a group of people shouting, talking to people, to actually giving them registration. So the next 10 months will be IYX Radio, while I set up the Indigi Walk, where I'll be walking through practically the entire Namibia, and then Shari and then comes up and join the Indigi Walk, which will be like in depth, going into the communities and finding out not how do we stop Recon Africa drilling. They found the oil. What do we do for alternatives? How can we now educate these people looking after themselves? We have drugs coming, sexual abuse, GBV. We have all these things that comes with mines. So that's now the next theme in remote assistance we're going to be looking at. How do we facilitate a workshop of defending your rights, yourself, and your environment throughout the entire bushman homelands? And it's going to take up all our time.
I saw you guys. You did a walk earlier in the year as well, from Knysna to from Knysna to Cape Town or to George or something?
Yes, Knysna to Cape Town.
And how much
to a handover petition?
Yeah, how much like awareness did? Because I mean, you know, you like obviously we're trying to raise awareness against the drilling and fracking.
Yes, it went crazy. The awareness, it worked very well. And if I can tell you, that stretch of coast that we chose to walk, we didn't just choose it. It's a coast threatened by oil and gas as well. We have Moss gas there. We walked past the biggest oil and gas refinery in the ocean in front of us. It was important that these men that I chose from different backgrounds, different communities, actually see what that machine looks like. a lot of us as environmentalists talk things, but we don't know what we're actually talking. It's plain sugar. It dissolves. So showing these poor people who everybody thinks is actually dumb, that is what should be aware of. He's going to go tell everybody. He's going to go tell everybody. So it is working. And the media took it. International media took it. National Geographic wrote about it. Al Jazeera, BBC. We practically went as far as media could reach us. Social media, Leonardo DiCaprio, he started sharing some of the content. It went big. But all that is still not enough to stop a corporate giant.
I was just gonna literally say, so obviously, I mean, you're going up against like, you know what I'm saying? It's
three
like
countries and one company.
You know, David and Goliath here, basically, because I mean, there's much awareness as you want to create. These multinationals will just go in and do what they want to.
And I'm telling you, the team that's working on it is fabulous. Free Namibia, Vanessa Black, Shari, IYX Afrika, Kerry, everybody that's working on this thing doesn't have sleep, don't have a life, and they have to live their own lives. But it is the amount of care they're putting in fighting this thing. Today they found oil. It wasn't a blow to us. We know they will find oil, but it's about continuing it and being that motivation. We're not going to be long in this fight, and we have to hand it over because it's a long time we're going to be fighting this thing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I mean, like, what is the ultimate outcome? Because I mean, lots of people don't realize how important the Okavango Delta is to the ecosystem. You know, I mean, like, that's where all the rivers and you know, all the tributaries like meet. You know, and like the migration of the animals, it's basically part of their migration. So they now come in now. Fucking
these people went as far as shooting elephants, my man.
Auctioning elephants as well.
Those people went as harming nature. This deal done. If you look at America and its fracking situation, I think my power just went off. But if you look at America and its fracking situation and Australia, it's a scary thing. Look at our communities, and then you look at Niger Delta. That's up the road from us. It's in between in between Namibia and Congo is Angola. Above Congo is Nigeria. That's the gap there is, and here's another oil pipe. You go into now and you research just a YouTube video. It scares you seeing that black smoke coming up. It scares you seeing that amount of fish dying. It scares you that people has to wait for the water tide to pull out in the morning to get fresh water popping out underground, while a river full they can't drink when it's high tide. Now, I come from a group of people that survives 100% on the water source thing, because the animals has to come visit. That's the tourism. That is the plants. That's everything that attracts some form of help for these indigenous people, and not just them. The farms there, there's jobs at risk. There's a lot at risk. I remember, Shari, when I started my campaign of wanting to walk down to Cape Town, I took a shot at Vinto, the beer company. And I said, so can y'all still say you got clean, fresh beer for me to drink? It's something for them to think about. This is a water crisis. Water sells a lot. So is this action and this government totally not, you know, wanting to come to terms of life? Yes. They want
and
money.
I just want to add, sorry, Q, sorry. I want to add that I'm not sure, but there are, you know, there is proof of positive outcomes. For example, in New Zealand, there is an indigenous community there that sees this particular river, I can't remember specifically, as a very sacred entity and whatever. And the same thing was going to happen, oil, gas drilling, that type of thing. They fought so hard for years and years, this indigenous community, for that river. And eventually the New Zealand government gave it its own personhood. So it has its own rights, It's a person that's part of this indigenous community, and they cannot touch it, that type of thing. So there's a lot of, well, not a lot, there is proof that things like this can come out positively. And when the indigenous are taking into account, I think that's what's important here. And that's what they're not seeing, is that this is indigenous sacred homeland. And we need to realize that this is powerful.
Yeah. I mean, as a person from our backgrounds, we can honestly say that's our Mecca. A journey we've never taken in our lives. That's a journey your daughter, my daughter, one day has to take to understand who's me and you and who's further than us. So removing that right now, I'm putting harm in my daughter's way, my man. I'm gonna confuse her when she gets up front there. I can't do that. I told a story. The story must be told by truth, not by my words, but by the words from Shari, you, and whoever. You cannot allow something like that to happen.
I think that's the most important thing to realize, is that as much negativity and as much just all the negativity surrounding everything within the world, COVID, all these things, that taking away our freedom, we have to realize that there is always hope and there's always positivity, and we need to keep the fight alive. Otherwise, it all dies. I mean, there's a quote that I heard from somebody a few days ago, and it was like, only when the last fish is caught and the last river is poisoned, then man will understand, the value of nature. But we can't allow it to get to that point. We need to really, like you say, educate our children, educate ourselves, and keep the fight and the hope alive. So how can people, I mean, I'll put links and stuff in the description, but like, just if you guys can just tell us where people can find out more, or, if, or help in any way if they want to get involved.
Okay, sure. Well, we have our social media pages, which is Instagram, it is at IYX Afrika, and then Facebook would be at IYX Afrika 7. And then I will send you our IYX Afrika radio link once we get that up and running. Like I said, we will be launching in May. So I will send that through to you as you post this podcast. But yeah, that's where you can find us.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just is there anything else that you want to add, Q, or any important messages, or stuff that you want to send for my viewers?
Yeah. We're in a time now where we became historians, all of us. And one thing for the morning that I've thought, tomorrow's my birthday, what is something that I can give back before tomorrow? Because tomorrow I'm not the same person. Tomorrow I would like to change my mind about certain things. It's how you should live your life, So today I would like to ask people, if you have a grandmother and a grandfather, it's nice that they've told you how to bake a cake and make a cup of tea. But if you ever ask them about their childhood, about things they thought would never change, it will bring out the most remarkable ideas in life, things we need today. We need to find ways to help people help people. My grandmother used to tell me, broken people fix broken people. Fixed person won't help you. Unfortunately, there's too many of us. So we have to share this broken scheme of work we have. So look at it, your grandmother is a different person. She's the teacher you've always neglected, the professor you looked over, the guide in life that you failed. And if you don't have a grandmother, go look for one. There's many. There's old age homes full of them. They're lonely. But please, my birthday, pre-birthday gift to the world would be, go speak to somebody old about life. To get another opinion.
That's amazing.
Chazs?
Yes, I would just like to say, to everyone out there, don't stop looking at yourself as well. Don't stop realizing your power, and realizing that from that power, sorry, I got a phone call. What I was saying is, don't stop looking into your power. Don't stop harnessing that power and keep evolving, keep growing, keep being inspired by your life, and that will inspire the next person. And for me, yeah, that's really important. But just know your power and move in that and inspire others along your way. So thank you guys, and thank you, Keenan, for giving us this time. Really, really do appreciate it. And yeah.
Guys, honestly, it's been educational. It's been amazing, and I'm gonna get you guys back on again probably say in a good couple of months, maybe 6-7 months, and then we can track the progress and see how things going, and obviously even raise more awareness, and even keep coming back. We can keep having these conversations, we can get more people on, we can keep growing it, and I might even try and organize one where we have Indigenous people from different parts of the globe, to come in and have a conversation about, these issues.
That's what I'm talking about, my man.
Um,
That's what I'm talking about, man.
it's a very common theme. Did you want to say something, Chazs?
Yes, and I also want to say that's also, we will also be meeting up on IYX Radio for these types of discussions.
Yeah, okay, so people look out for that. I'm the solarkidd. That's Q7 right there, homeboy, Kazi Shari Canal. And this is the Other Side of the Sun podcast. We out. Away. Peace.
Thank you.